Namaste, Chingus. It's your girl Kathleen, aka Kasurin, aka Sorin, and we are back with another episode of Sorin Soapbox. Get into it, get into it. Welcome to the Sorin Soapbox, where we talk about all things love, life, and the plot twist that comes with both. How y'all doing today? I'm glad to be back for another episode. If you are a new listener, I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. We love new people around here. Kick off your shoes, relax your feet, and just kick it with us. If you are a returning listener, I love you. Thank you for coming back for yet another episode. How your mama and them? How you doing? Well, let's get strapped in for another episode of Sonin Soapbox. Again, whether you're a new listener or a returning, get you something to drink, child. Get you some water, some coffee, some tea, wine, whatever your drink of choice is. But as I like to say, drink responsibly, okay? We have a bit of a smorgasbord of an episode today, if I can be honest. I had some ideas of what I wanted to talk about today, but child, we'll see if we get into the topics. We'll see if we get into it, if I'm being honest. So first things first, I always like to start off the episode with what I call Sorin's Life Update, where I basically talk about what's been going on since the last episode, if any events, fun things, any life updates, essentially. So, as far as my past 2 weeks, it's been a lot of things going on. I'm going to start with some light stuff and then we'll move into maybe a little bit more heavier topics and things. But first and foremost, I was able to go to my friend's baby shower, which was super nice. I was so excited to be with her. They had a Star Wars themed baby shower, which was like right up my alley. So it was just cute because, my best friend's husband, he had on the I'm Your Father t-shirt. They had like the foods and the drinks named after like different aspects of Star Wars. So it just was cute. It was just a really nice vibe. It was good to see her. It was good to hang out with her. And yeah, I've been pretty much just been working nonstop between my mentorship homework, with subbing, and I have a lot of workload. And then I think I mentioned in the last episode that I joined a life group, or as our church calls it, the mid-size group. And that group has a lot of homework. So the name of the course is Rooted, and basically just fleshing out different aspects of the Bible and who is God, and talking about prayer and how to get through suffering and trials and tribulations that come in your life. And so there's daily reading and homework to do, just basically reflect on the reading. So it's been good. I think I've been in it now for about 2 weeks now, if not 3. It is a 10-week course. So far it's been pretty good. I'm sitting with some really amazing women who we all just have very similar thought processes, but at the same time come from different walks of life. And that obviously brings a new perspective to the topics that we discuss. For example, creation, and just breaking down how creative, artistic, and yet scientific God is in just creation alone, and how things were put together and brought forth, essentially. So yeah, that's been an amazing experience with these ladies so far. And then another thing that I did this week was I was able to go see the Demon Slayer movie. Child, first of all, I'm definitely a fan of Demon Slayer, and I'm an anime girly. But I will admit, I don't tend to go to the movie theaters when anime movies come out. That's just never been... I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I have just never been compelled to go watch an anime movie in theater. I tend to wait till Crunchyroll releases it on the app, and then I watch it from there. So this was my first time seeing an anime film in theater, and I went to see it on IMAX. Okay, I need to really just go on my soapbox for a minute. The movie itself was great, right? Tanjiro is my favorite. I don't care. Some people feel a type of way about Tanjiro, but that's my little sweetie. I will fight between him and Nezuko. I will swing on anybody who plays with them. But watching the film, it just was, again, it is such a beautifully animated show, from the different breathing techniques and seeing it come to life. I have words. First of all, Muzan needs to get his butt whooped, okay? I'm so sick of his Michael Jackson looking behind. I need him to get Molly whopped. But also, that lady with that little weird guitar. I'm sorry. I want to preface this by saying, if you have not seen the Demon Slayer movie, I apologize in advance. There will be spoilers. So you have been warned. You can go ahead and skip past this right now. Just go ahead and skip it right now, and I'll catch you in the later half of the episode. But yes, that lady on the guitar, she was stressing me out. The poor baby's trying to draw out the maps, sending out the crows, just stressing. This little boy is 8 years old, and that man is stressing about finding Muzan. And his parents just died, his siblings just died. Like, that boy is carrying the whole world on his shoulders. And yet I'm here for it because he just was determined. It was nice to see Rengoku's father, stand and watch for them. And it just like touched my heart. You know what pisses me off though about the Demon Slayer creators is that in one moment I am crying and weeping for Rengoku, and then in the next I am sympathizing and crying for Akaza. Like, why would y'all do that? But the thing is, I should have known, because the way that Demon Slayer will humanize the villains, essentially. I hope they don't humanize Muzan, because I don't give a freak about that man. But every time we come across a different demon, they give the backstory, they tell us about what happened, and you end up feeling bad for them. You end up sympathizing and crying. I was weeping in that theater for that man. Cause why would y'all do that poor baby like that? Like, his relationship with his dad, and then, him fighting and just trying to get some medicine because they were poor, and then to be taken in by another family. It's just, why y'all do that? Why y'all do that? So it's just, child. And I'm like, literally, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. First of all, I was on the edge of my seat for a couple of reasons. Okay. One, because of the movie. But I want to tell y'all about the movie theater. I went to AMC movie theater here in my city. And when I walked into that IMAX theater, it was the most dirtiest, filthiest theater I had ever seen in my life. Like, I mean... the seats looked like they had bed bugs. It was disgusting. I had to put my jacket down just so I can properly sit and lean back and not feel like something was going to jump and crawl over me. I had snuck in some Chick-fil-A. Yes, I am that person. Okay. I have a movie theater bag. I don't have no shame. I have snuck food in there. I have snuck sushi into the movie theater. I have snuck in Chick-fil-A. I have brought in Taco Bell. I have brought in Annie Ann's. When I tell you, I have had full course meals in the movie theater. I think the only thing I've never done, which I have seen because I did used to work at the movie theater, I have never brought Chinese food into the movie theater. But I had seen people when I worked at the movie theater. I used to work at Regal, and they brought Chinese food, like walk through the door, bold. And I was like, I mean, they don't really check your bag anymore, but I'm still just I'd be trying to be respectful. Like, I don't want to put it in their face like, hey, I'm bringing in Chick-fil-A. Just because, again, when you work in a movie theater, the smell of popcorn, I don't mind it, but I remember working at the movie theater. The smell of popcorn was in my clothes. It was in my hair. It just was like too much. Now, the pretzel bites, I will F up some pretzel bites at a movie theater with a little cheese dip and a slushie. But the popcorn, I can't do it. Like, I barely eat popcorn at home just because, again, the smell just reminds me of working at the movie theaters, which I was probably one of my top 3 favorite jobs, just because like the perks and the benefits, obviously, of like getting to see a movie free. Sometimes like you could call first dibs on, I don't think they do it now anymore, but like the movie theater, how they had the little flyers that they would hang to show like the movie times in the theaters, or like the movie posters that they would hang up on the wall. You could call dibs on those when the movie was about to no longer play in the theater. You could call dibs. Or sometimes if there were certain gifts or prizes, or I don't want to say toys because this is a Happy Meal, but like, for example, when the first Aquaman came out, they gave everybody Funko Pops as part of the promotion. I think it was for like Black Mantis, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was just sometimes like some people would get popcorn buckets. It just varied here and there, but it was a really cool job. I wasn't making a lot of money, but it was like a second job for me, and I loved it. But needless to say, I walked into this AMC theater and it was the most disgusting thing I'd ever seen. And that's my fault because I booked my ticket at the last minute and I just decided to pick the theater that was closest to me. Usually I go to Cinemark. When I saw Wicked and Sinners, that's where I went. But this time I was like, oh, it's AMC. I've heard good things about AMC. I had never been because the one I worked at and the one that was closest to home was Regal. But I was like, you know what? Let's check out AMC, see what the fuss is about. Child, never again. Never again. So, needless to say, I was sitting on the edge of my seat for multiple reasons. But overall, it was such a great movie. If you have not seen it, I know I've already given spoilers, but I try not to give too much detail. But this was a really good movie. I don't know if I'll go see it again. I think I would want to wait till it comes out on Crunchyroll so that I can be able to like pause and like take in and stuff, because there just was a lot happening at once. And you know, that's what happened with like Sinners and Wicked, which Wicked I saw, I think, twice. Sinners I saw twice, or maybe it was, no, Sinners I saw 3 times in theater. And then by the time, because we're deviating, but I am not a movie goer the way I used to. And I think unfortunately it's because of like streaming services and all of that I just haven't gone to the movies in that way. But yeah, I didn't grow up in a household necessarily where we went to the movies often. I grew up in a household where we got Blockbuster movies every Friday with pizza. So I'm used to being at home to watch like major productions. Like I remember, you know, when the Fast series started, that's like one of the well-known movie series in my household, is that after every Fast, like Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift, The Fast and the Furious, like all of those, Too Fast, Too Furious, when they all came out, I remember that as soon as they came out on Blockbuster, my dad would go pick up the VHS, he'll go pick up a box of pizza, and that was like our Friday night tradition for the longest. So the idea of going to the movies is a relatively new thing for me. Well, I won't say new, but I am not prone to go to the movies as often as probably I would like to. But yeah, either way, I definitely recommend seeing this movie. I look forward to see what the new season looks like. So yeah, that was probably like one of the highlights of these past 2 weeks, is going to see that movie and the baby shower. And then we're gonna switch gears a little bit, but yeah, as I'm sure a lot of y'all know, there's been a lot of conversation about a particular podcaster slash content creator slash influencer. I'm not saying his name on my platform. I'm sure y'all could put 2 and 2 together to figure out who it is. But I would be lying if I'm not sitting here with a quiet rage right now. The way I am livid, the way I am angry, the way I hate the conversation that is coming up with this man, especially in the Christian spaces, in comparing him to Jesus. And apparently one of my friends said they compared him to Paul in the Bible. And the weaponization of scripture behind this man who spewed hateful rhetoric, literally. So here is some background. I'm going to back up a little bit and I'm trying to not be angry. I am very much angry. I'm not going to stifle my anger. I am just trying to make sure that I do not sin, or how do I put this? Lash out in anger. Don't get me wrong. There is such a thing as righteous rage, which I think is what I feel as well. I am just trying to figure out how to navigate this righteous rage in a way that I don't feel like I'm stooping down to the opposite side's behavior. I hope I'm making sense with that. But yeah, so last weekend specifically, my sister and I will go to church on Saturdays just because we serve on Sunday mornings. And she serves in kids. We tend to serve at the door together on alternating Sundays. I'm part of a new members ministry where we host a luncheon to invite new members in and talk to them and all of that good stuff. So we went to church on Saturday because, again, we were serving that Sunday. And we had already received a text message from our church saying that our pastor was going to talk about the tragedies that have been happening and everything that's just going on in the world. And while I immediately felt my body tense up, I was like, you know what? Let me walk in with an open mind, because of the fact that the last time we had this quote unquote pause in our sermon series, it was to address the flooding and stuff that happened in Texas, and just trying to make sense of when tragedy strikes, and like how to navigate that and reconcile it with our relationship with Jesus. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go in with assuming. I am going to keep an open mind and an open heart, because I was like, oh, maybe he's going to talk about what happened at Denver, I believe, Denver, Colorado, at the high school. So I was like, you know what? Let's keep an open mind and an open heart. And so we did, me and my sister. So we walked into the church, and something about the air just felt different. Something about the atmosphere felt different. And I have to admit, sometimes I gaslight myself that it's like I'm making a big deal out of nothing. It's like, it's fine. But I realize it's also like the Holy Spirit in me being like, hey, pay attention. So yeah, like even some of the pastors and leaders we were talking to, something about their energy felt off too. Like they were on pins and needles and walking on eggshells because they didn't know what was going to come up either. So we step into the service and praise and worship is going up. And normally I could throw myself in worship. I can say that I'm definitely a worshiper, and it takes nothing for me to just close my eyes and have the entire outside world melt away. But this particular service, I couldn't do that. I struggled like immensely. So much so I had to close my eyes and just pray. And I'm like, God, I'm experiencing such extreme levels of emotions. I'm feeling so angry and livid and frustrated and upset, and I don't know how to process these emotions. What do I do? And yeah, I just was praying. And then the pastor comes out on the stage and he basically starts talking about the tragedy that happened and how this man was, removed from this earth in such a violent way. Actually, before I continue, I do want to say this though. I do not agree with what happened and how it happened, because there are children who do not have a father. There is a wife who does not have her husband, and I can grieve and empathize with that. And I'm not finna give a standing ovation to someone who did not live a life of peace, love, kind, long-suffering, all the fruits of the Spirit. Someone who did not reflect the fruits of the Spirit in their life. I will not ignore that. I will not erase that. I will not suddenly have amnesia behind a man who lived a life that considered me a threat to his life just because of the color of my skin and my gender. I absolutely refuse. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer. But yeah, so he got on that stage and talked about his murder and talked about that all he saw was a man trying to share the truth, aka in his mind, Christianity and the Bible, and that he invited people into conversations where they were able to agree to disagree, and that even if they had a different perspective or worldview, he embraced them and took them in. And I'm just like, what are we talking about here? And so, yeah, he said that this was a young man whose life was cut down short, and it reminds him of Jesus and how Jesus, shared the gospel and invited people in who disagreed with him, and yet he loved on them. Just a bunch of tomfoolery, okay? Just a bunch of foolishness. And then proceeded to tell the congregation that those of us who were joyous about this man's death, shame on us. That it is a different type of evil, and that we should fall on our faces and repent. And if we could not, to find another church. And I stood there next to my sister in disbelief. Because first of all, I don't fall in either category, right? I'm not grieving this man. I'm not sad about this man, but I'm also not dancing on his grave, right? I'm not doing either of that. So where does the people who fall in between go in this conversation? That was the first thing that I had. Secondly, I was immediately triggered. So for those of you who don't know, I used to go to a Christian university in Virginia. Very well known. There's a Hulu documentary about them, so it won't take you long to figure out what the university is. I just don't want to give them any publicity. But yeah, and I was there the year that President Obama became president, and the way the Wahites reacted as if this man was the devil, as if this man was Nicodemus from Left Behind, and he was going to throw all of America into this, I don't know, chaos, if you will. Funny enough, that's what we're experiencing right now. But I remember seeing people who were my prayer leader, people who were my RAs, people who were my classmates, my roommates, and just recognizing that, oh, you actually hate me because of the color of my skin. Like, you're cool with me being your classmate as long as I know my place. But the gall, the audacity to think you could become president in these United States of America? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Mind you, this was the same campus or same school that I went to where they were throwing water balloons at us filled with bleach, calling us the N-word with the hard ER. So I was immediately triggered to that time and just recognizing that I was not safe. I wasn't safe anywhere aside from being around other Black and brown people who looked like me. So needless to say, sitting in that crowd, I was too stunned to speak. And then the pastor had the nerve to read Psalm 46, because apparently that's what that man's widow posted on her socials, and he felt like it was so apropos. And so yeah, my sister and I quickly grabbed our things and made an immediate beeline to the exit. We didn't pass go. We didn't collect $200. We immediately found the exit and got to the car. And I bawled my eyes out in that car because I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. And yes, I'm sure somebody's going to be like, yeah, but Oklahoma is 50th in education, which is true. It is a red state, which is true. But I believe that two things could be true at the same time. And the reason why I say that is because I didn't come here of my own volition. I've said that before, and I will say it ad nauseum. I didn't move here of my own volition, of my own choice. I didn't spin, the US map and close my eyes and see where my finger would land, and it landed here. I didn't do that. I prayed about what my next steps were after leaving Korea, and it was here. And one thing I'm going to do above all else is be obedient to God. As much as I'd love to enact my own will, I care more about God's will than my own. Does that mean I go without kicking and screaming? No. And I also know that I want to make sure I live my life to the fullest, but I'm also not a blind sheep, right? I don't just follow the crowd for the sake of following the crowd. But yeah, I didn't choose to be in this city of my own accord, and I didn't choose this church of my own accord either. My sister and I were church hopping, and a lot of the churches just wasn't hitting. It wasn't doing nothing for us. And then we came across this one, and everything about it just was confirmation from the way they greeted us, from the way they treated us, from the way they gave us help and accommodations I remember going to my first mid-sized group and sitting amongst people that I didn't know at all and going through hell back home. And I was able to be transparent with them and vulnerable with them. And as a result, they were able to show up for me and help me at the time, not having a job and frustrated about finances and everything. And, even when I didn't have a car, there was there was a woman there who said that they had a couple people at the church who worked at dealerships and one who owned a dealership. And so she made a couple phone calls and, has conversations about what she could do to help me with a car. And you know what I mean? So it's just like everybody around us went above and beyond to help. So it's the fact that after officially a year this month, finding community and finding a group of people only to have this be spoken across the platform is disheartening. It's heartbreaking. It's frustrating. And so, yeah, I sat in that car. And I know this wasn't me. This had to be the Holy Spirit. I reached out to one of the leaders that I've formed a really good friendship with. And I was just like, hey, can we sit down and have a conversation? Because, what he said brought up a lot of negative emotions. And she was like, oh my God, yes, I'd love to sit down with you. And we have an arrangement. I haven't sat down and talked to her yet. We're supposed to meet this weekend. And yeah, I have had a roller coaster of emotions up and down about this whole thing. I'm hurt, I'm angry, and my sister and I are trying to come up with an idea of what are we going to do now? Are we going to leave the church? Are we going to do bedside Baptist or do a church online? Like, I don't know. And I think the most frustrating part about this is that I don't think I'm supposed to leave. And I know that someone's going to listen and be like, what do you mean? Like, you have free will. Yes, I do have free will. And don't get me wrong, I'm not obtuse to know that I have free will. But I feel like I'm not meant to leave, that I may have to be the catalyst to get somebody in the church to wake up and see that this isn't right, that this can't be the way that y'all go. And I hate that for myself. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. I hate this for myself. The idea that I might need to volunteer as tribute to be the person who breaks bread with him and speaks to him about a lot of the things that's going on. Because the reality is a lot of his staff members are people of color or Black people and Caribbean people and African people. So you have a diverse staff of leadership. And yet you could say something like that in support of a man who hates all of them, hates all of them. And so, yeah, I don't know. I am at a crossroads on how to deal with this and how to process all this. And so, yeah, that's pretty, I wanted to talk about a bunch of other things, but this has been heavy on my heart and on my mind since this past weekend. I haven't been able to move past it. I haven't been able to pray past it. I have not been able to quote unquote get over it. And the more and more I see other pastors talk about this man and as if he was a martyr and condemning people for either minding their business and not caring or being celebratory. Because then my question is this: should we have sympathy and empathy for the people, for the Egyptians and the Pharaoh when they tried to chase after the people of Israel? When Moses went to set them free and he parted the Red Sea, the people of Israel was able to get through with no problem. And then as soon as the very last person crossed and the Egyptians tried to go through, the Lord drowned them in the Red Sea. Those people had families. Why not mourn them? Huh? Why not mourn them? Why not mourn the people that David was sent to slay? Why not mourn Goliath? I'm sure Goliath had a wife. Goliath had a kid, probably. We don't mourn them. We don't mourn the Philistines. We don't mourn the people who were in the Bible that God raised up an army to destroy them. We don't mourn them. So why the hell are you telling people to not be joyous about this? When you are the victim of an oppressor and your oppressor is gone, hell yeah, you're going to be a little happy about that. Hell yeah, you're going to breathe a sigh of relief because you're no longer under the thumb of your oppressor. So now what are we going to do? Tell SA victims that you can't be glad when your abuser's gone? What are we talking about here? What are we actually saying? And again, the fact that this man is a podcaster, he's not a politician, he's not in any government position. This man was a podcaster and an influencer traveling around the world. This man didn't hold no titles, and yet he's getting buried. This man is getting a military honor. Be so freaking for real. What are we talking about here? And that's the part that's making me actually livid, is the conversations that the church is having about this man and the way they are. Today, I just saw an AI photo of this man shaking hands with Malcolm X, talking about you're not too bad for a white boy. What are we talking about here? Let me not. The fact of the matter is the conversation around this man is disgusting and despicable. And my thing is this: if you're going to talk about that man, you better be talking about the other stuff that's happening. You haven't talked about what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Sudan, in the Congos, in Haiti. You're not talking about Trey Reeds. You haven't talked about Trayvon Martin. You haven't talked about Breonna Taylor. You haven't talked about Sandra Bland, Alton Brown, Tamir Rice. You haven't talked about these people. And I don't have to be at the church to know that you haven't talked about these people. And yet we haven't talked about what's the government official that was killed in their home. I think Melissa Horton. Y'all haven't talked about that. What are we actually talking about? And even in the same vein, we had that first interruption to talk about what's happening in Texas and the flooding, but there was no conversation about the ICE raids, the California fires. There is destruction happening everywhere. If you're going to bring any politics and stuff to the pulpit, you better bring it all. Otherwise, keep that stuff out of there. Preach the gospel, rightly divine the word, give us the benediction, and bamale, let me go home. Cause like this right here, this is the part that's making me livid and making my blood boil. But yeah, I don't really have anything to talk about today aside from that. Because I'm very much angry, I'm very much livid. I still wanted to just talk to y'all and have a conversation and also just be very transparent as I try to be. And I'm just coming to y'all being unfiltered about everything that's happened. That I'm tired. I am tired. And not the physical exhaustion, but like I'm mentally tired. I'm emotionally spent. I'm spiritually exhausted. It's just like, if it's not one thing, it's another. And since January, it has just been nonstop foolishness. We have not received a break. We have not gotten a breather. And at this point, Jesus can come back. Send the second flood. Jesus, come on back. Earth is ghetto. Half a star. Actually, 0 stars. Do not recommend. Come get me, because I'm sick of all this. I'm tired. That's all I can really say is that I'm tired. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here. And I'm sorry, y'all. Normally I'm a little bit more organized with my thoughts and everything, but actually, no, I'm not sorry. I think trying to come here and be polished and put together and organized, I think that would be disingenuous to who I am and what I'm feeling right now. And I'm not feeling all of that. Because even like that Saturday, I was so angry, I could feel steam coming off my body. So yeah, I'm not going to pretend nor apologize that this wasn't a little bit more organized. It's just me being me. And I hope y'all can appreciate that. I hope y'all can accept that. And so yeah, with that being said, I'm going to step off my soapbox. And yeah, I thank you all for listening. Again, whether you're new, if you're new, I'm sorry, this isn't my usual content. This isn't my usual setup, but here we are. If you are returning, child, you already know. Sometimes I just be like, look, this is what's going on. Life is life in. And I appreciate y'all for sticking beside me either way. And yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts. How was your past couple of weeks? Have you seen Demon Slayer? And if you haven't already, when do you plan to see it? And yeah, how are y'all handling what's going on? Because if it's weighing heavy on me, I can only imagine how heavy it's weighing on others. I mean, I've seen it on my TikToks and my Facebook and my Instagram. Like, I see it. But I just want to provide a place of safety where you can vent and be angry or whatever emotions come up as a result of this, and know that I will not force you to feel something that you do not feel. I will not ask you to smother your anger or your frustrations. No, I want you to sit in that. I want you to process it. I want you to, and sometimes not every emotion requires an intellectualizing it, but sometimes you just need to feel, or you just need to disconnect. Whatever the case may be, I just ask that everyone take care of their mental health. I think that is the most important thing above all else, is take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Take care of your inner child. Do whatever you got to do to regulate your nervous system in these charged times, honestly. You're more than welcome to reach out to me on all platforms. You can reach me on Instagram and TikTok at Sorin's Soapbox. That's SORINS_soapbox, SOAPBOX on Instagram and TikTok. So reach out to your girl. I'd love to hear from you. And until then, I love you. Be safe. Take care of yourself. And your girl is off her soapbox. See ya.